So welcome to today's episode of the Amesbury Chamber of Commerce's Economic Development Committee Speaker Series. My name is Phil DiCollegiero. I'm the Executive Director of the Amesbury Chamber, and I'm excited that today we are joined by representatives from the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission, also known more commonly as the MVPC. It's exciting to have them with us today as part of this program. This program is made possible due to the sponsorship of North Shore Realty, Newburyport Bank, and Energy Source. I'd like to specifically recognize Frank Bertolino, broker owner of North Shore Realty, and thank him for helping to organize today's call.
Hi, my name is Frank Bertolino, broker, founder, and owner of the North Shore Realty Group. I want to thank you for joining us for this recording of the Amesbury Chamber of Commerce's Economic Development Committee Speaker Series. In this episode, we'll be hearing from the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission, an agency responsible for, among other things, helping drive the responsible economic development of our Merrimack Valley region. As a residential and commercial real estate broker, I've seen the challenges presented by COVID-19, but also the economic opportunities. If you're an aspiring entrepreneur, some of the very best first steps to take are connecting with your local city or town hall, your local chamber of commerce, and the folks over at Merrimack Valley Planning Commission. Thank you to the MVPC for joining us today and the Amesbury Chamber of Commerce for making this forum possible. Please remember, here at the North Shore Realty Group, it's not about us, it's all about you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Frank. And so today we are joined by our Economic Development Committee, as well as representatives, again, of course, from the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission, including their Executive Director, Teresa Park, who I guess her role could be described as a baptism by fire because she only just took the reins of this organization right before COVID hit. And so, Teresa, thank you and your team for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here along with Nate Robertson, who is our community and economic development planner.
Well, we're glad to have you. And this is a group that I think has heard from your predecessors several years. Our hope was that, especially with COVID, having changed the role some agencies are playing, but of course there are some other things that have been thrown at you even pre-COVID as an organization. Our hope was that you could give our listeners and our committee an update on just, what the MVPC is and the role you play, generally in the region's economic development.
Sure, I'll be happy to do that. So the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission is one of 13 regional planning agencies in the state. Between the 13 of us, we serve 351 communities in the state of Massachusetts. And the role that we play is we add capacity to the regional capability of communities, cities, and towns who are part of our region. In our instance, we represent 15 communities stretching everywhere from Newburyport and Salisbury down to Groveland and Rowley and over including the cities of Haverhill, Lawrence, Methuen, and Amesbury, of course. And so what we do is we work with the municipalities in some key areas, including transportation, community and economic development, environment, and GIS. So those are our 4 competencies, and typically those are the areas where we can play a role in bringing resources to the communities, helping with planning, including economic development, and Nate will speak more about that, as well as bringing in technical expertise that a community alone would not be able to do from a staffing standpoint and from a technology standpoint. And in that instance, that includes our GIS capability. And while we work primarily with mayors and managers and the planning staff, we also work with DPW directors. We have a coalition of DPW directors where we address stormwater issues, the MS4 requirements from EPA, as well as our GIS working with our assessors database, for example, so they could help them update their parcel data in a way that makes sense from a geographic standpoint. So it's a really quick overview. I would also just add that even though from a community and economic development standpoint, we have a staff of 1 right now, he basically is like an octopus with 8 arms, in the sense that he can do so many different things at any given point. And Nate will talk more about the specifics of the work that he does and how he works with communities from an economic development standpoint. We do have some strong partners, including chambers, of course, as well as at the federal level, at the state level, and also working with technical assistance providers. And from an economic development standpoint, we want to be the regional clearinghouse for all things economic development. Economic development is interesting in the sense that, unlike planning, where you have to have staff to address some of the permitting issues, whether it's a special permit going before the ZBA or the Conservation Commission, economic development is, it was described to me by my old grad school professor that it's sort of the grease that makes the engine run. When it's working, you don't notice it. But when it's not, then that's when you realize that something should have been done all along. And when we had the last Great Recession, I think that became very obvious in the sense that a lot of communities who hadn't done economic development all of a sudden realized that they actually had to be engaged and proactive in working with businesses, whether it's working with aspiring business owners, working with businesses that are facing challenges, or businesses that are looking to grow, and providing them or plugging them in the appropriate resources and the support to make them flourish and succeed. Because we do know that it's always easier to help an existing business than to try to recruit a new business into the city. So that's a broad overview of our the services that are available at the Planning Commission, as well as sort of touching upon how we work from an economic development standpoint. If it's okay, I would love to then pass the mic over to Nate so he could talk a little bit more specifically about the work that he does in engaging with the communities. Is that all right?
That's great.
Perfect.
Cool. Hey, everybody, this is Octopus. That is one animal. I think that's the first time I've been compared to an octopus. So I'm going to add that to the ever-growing list. But it's really good to be here. Phil, thank you. Barbara, I've been in your mill buildings. They're wonderful. You've done a fantastic job building those up and getting businesses in there. Angie, always good to see you. And with that, I guess I'll jump into the big committee, which we run over in community and economic development, is the SEDS committee. And Angie was a huge part in doing that prior to my coming on board of MVPC. Really what the SEDS committee does, and we're in government, so we use a lot of acronyms. We love it. But SEDS stands for Community and Economic Development. Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. That's not community and economic development. Those worlds are very similar though. But what the SEDS committee does is it aligns vision and resources throughout the region. Here in Massachusetts, we're blessed that we have very strong local leadership. We have very strong local government. But what we try to do is we try to take all of our strong local government and leaders and we put them in a group and we have them think regionally about issues. As we know, our economic challenges and our strengths don't stop at our borders. They extend beyond them. So the more and more we can think regionally about issues, the stronger and stronger we can leverage those strengths, and the better we can mitigate our weaknesses. So the SEDS committee meets regularly. We talk about issues relevant to what's going on. With COVID, it's certainly been busy, and we all have a lot of challenges that we've been faced with. But that's kind of the broad level of what the SEDS committee tackles, meets regularly, and aligns vision and resources. One of the tangible ways that we help communities is we recently released a comprehensive data portal. And that contains 2 services which I think are probably of particular interest to this group. One is a property inventory, where we maintain a database of all available non-residential real estate. So that's small storefront units to big mill buildings. And we maintain that throughout the region. So at any point, you can go in and you can search for 2,000 square feet of available commercial space, and you can find where every available 2,000 square feet of available commercial space is in Merrimack Valley. Not only that, but you can see what sort of, if it's in an incentive zone, like a 40R district or 43D district, you can see what the local zoning is. You can find the property contact. You can find if it's for sale or if it's for lease, what those prices are. If it's publicly available information, we've got it, and we've got it in one place, and we have it layered with all of the other information that we as a planning agency have on board.
Nate,
So,
for that specific pool of data,
sure.
does that require, I know that you just said if it's publicly available, you have it, but really, I mean, there's a lot of those details that may not be available. Do we need the property owners to proactively reach out to you to get you that information, or?
No, that would be a logistical nightmare. And if, thank God, right? Actually, if I can share my screen, I could show folks just an example. It's often easier just to see it than it is to describe it.
Sure, you should be able to share now.
Let's see here, screen one. All right, so this is our data portal. And this would be, I'm just going to launch the data portal right now. There's a couple different entry points. We have included in our data portal is other information which you would expect a planning agency to have, which is, demographic stuff, other community data. But when I launch the data portal, you'll see right here, Merrimack Valley Planning Commission, property search. And then you can see, oh, look, Amesbury's got a property right at the top of the list. Building B, 38 Water Street. The old, it's got those, I think those half domes. There's a word for those, Quonset huts, I think, sort of style building. But I'll pick on Amesbury since I'm here. And let's. Actually, this is a good little entryway for me to talk about the data portal, and I won't go on too much about it. It's this is part of a year-long process, but this is kind of just a quick snapshot of Amesbury. It shows your population growth, kind of general demographic information, and really easy to present charts, educational attainment, labor force, businesses and jobs. You can see which your leading establishments are. What size those establishments have for employees, whether they're huge employers or small employers, and no surprise here, 62% of your employers have between 1 and 4 employees. So sort of big picture general information, which makes it really essential to really understand the topography of a community, especially its economic landscape, and then be able to do more pointed economic development work in that region. So our business inventory map has all of the available real estate in the region. And it shows you right there, and I'm just going to pick right here in Amesbury, 41 Sparrowhawk Street. And then it has all your information, availability, site details, its proximity to downtown, incentives, whether it's in an opportunity zone or a hub zone or a priority development area, and then local zoning here too. So it's a good way to quickly check and see, oh, do we have something that kind of fits the bill? Another thing I wanted to share is which is another arm of our data portal, is the available business inventory. And again, I think this might be of particular use given your committee. This is every business in the Merrimack Valley, which is something that we try to keep track of. Now, standard data caveat, it is not 100% accurate. Trying to get every single business is an ever-changing and ever-evolving list, but this does a very good job at getting upwards 90-95% of that captured. So I'm going to zoom into Amesbury a little bit. Every one of those dots represents an establishment. Every one of those establishments has a number of employees attached to it, has a total sales number attached to it, and has an industry attached to it. So you can really quickly segment, oh, I want to take a look at all of the construction firms in Amesbury. And you can, I'm just going to show you right here. You can see, okay, construction, let's turn all of these off. Let's only see construction firms in Amesbury. You've got a number of them. Over 1,000 construction firms, or no, this is for the whole valley. Let me have it only be Amesbury. There we go. 50 construction firms. That sounds like a more realistic number. 50 construction firms in Amesbury. And then you can really further break that down by segment. So you can new single family housing construction, residential remodeling contractors. So depending on what sort of industry you're looking at, you can get really granular in seeing those details and seeing how many sales they're doing, how many employees they have. This is also great just business to business wise. If you're looking to do business with a particular industry, or you're looking to do some outreach locally, or within the region, over if you sell widgets and you know there's a particular industry that buys a lot of widgets, you can drill down and get a list of all who those businesses are. And this is, I want to show you how granular it gets. So this is for construction, new single family housing construction, and then you can see who those businesses are and where they are. So it's also a great business to business tool, just as a way to figure out who's in your neighborhood and what industry and the size of their business is. So I'm gonna stop sharing. Because of that information, oh, so sorry, go ahead, Phil.
No, that's a fantastic resource. I just wanted to ask committee members, I know some of you have worked with the MVPC in the past. Has anybody on this call utilized that tool that Nate just went through?
Not yet, but we sure will.
Yes, exactly.
Great. Well, I got to say, it's a tool that we just have built out. And again, this is the result of a lot of background work, which even Angie was a part of, really teeing this thing up. So this is a new tool. Because I like Amesbury so much, I'm giving you the sneak peek now, but this is something that you can absolutely use going forward.
Nate, can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure. Jump right in.
So I didn't see an access point on the website. Is this something that you need to grant individuals access to, or is there going to be an access point on the website?
Yeah, we're putting our final polish on the website access point. So it's we just don't have it there publicly yet. I would happy to drop the link now. It's totally functional, but it's just not, as you notice, it's not live on our website yet.
We do have a kickoff event scheduled that's coming up soon that will formally launch the availability of this data portal.
Well, it looks awesome. Thank you for your work with it.
Absolutely. Any other questions, comments? Sometimes I get carried away talking about this stuff, and I'll just keep going.
No, it's really neat. So then Pam's question, so it's not like we can use this data now. It needs to be, you're going to have your formal kickoff, or is this that you just showed us live?
I just put the link in the chat. So you can access that now. Our official ribbon cutting ceremony is going to be on the, I want to say 7th? Yes, on the 7th at 11 a.m. And then it's going to be going live on our website then. So it seems silly to withhold it from you with less than a week to go. But it'll be working. It'll be officially, public then, and you can use it. There'll be no barriers to it.
Oh, that's amazing. What a resource.
I'm glad that people find it useful. I really do. We try to position ourselves as a useful tool in the region. And so to hear that means we're doing our job.
Nate, where does your listing have to be located in order to be visible in your data?
I would say a good rule of thumb is if you're listed on like LoopNet or CoStar, and
Okay,
we'll be able to capture you.
okay.
I'll jump into the next service. Because we have this kind of up-to-date available real estate, of this database of available up-to-date real estate, and because we have such good municipal contacts, we partnered with Mass Econ a little while ago. Mass Econ is a nonprofit, but they serve as the state's business site selection agency. So they work with expanding businesses, relocating businesses in the state to find them space. They work across the state, but we work with them specifically in terms of when they have a query on a business says, I'm looking for Northeast Massachusetts, I'm looking for the Merrimack Valley. They reach out to us and we can quickly respond and says, here's 10, 20 acre sites and here's the communities that they're in. And we can do that sort of handoff. So it positions us as a way to kind of be a matchmaker between expanding and relocating businesses and the communities in the catchment area that we're in. So that's sort of the big picture economic development stuff we're able to leverage and the place we kind of occupy in the ecosystem. I do want to talk about some real tangible tools that we can use for specific businesses. We have a revolving loan fund in-house. We're really unique in the sense that there's, as far as I know, no other RPAs that have this. But it allows us to functionally be a lender. Now we'll never be the main lender. It serves as gap financing for projects that might get 80% of the way there with the bank, but they said, yeah, we just can't do the whole project. That's where we can come in and serve as a lender in those instances, as a second lender to provide that gap financing. We lend at a rate, it's prime +2. And we like to focus on really transformative small businesses. So we have kind of loans throughout the region, but one we did recently was G's Restaurant in Haverhill, which is doing wonderfully. It's a great little spot, but they took like a really rundown property. They put a bunch of money and resources into transforming it into now a kind of a keystone piece of Haverhill's downtown. So projects like that, we love to help when possible. And in that sense, we were able to use our revolving loan fund to help finance that. Do we have any lenders in the room? Any questions?
No borrowers, though.
Yeah, we can.
I'm going on that website.
Great. Reach out to us.
All right.
And the last thing I wanted to say, and this is something that's still in the planning stages, but with all of with the COVID-19 and the economic impacts that we're dealing with there, through the CARES Act funding, we were able to get a very small slice of that enormous program and put it towards building a small business technical assistance program. So we're working now, and we're working with we'll be working with our SEDS committee in the coming weeks to really analyze and assess what those small business technical assistance needs are in this environment, and then work with a provider in order to best address those. So that's a kind of a new program we're making, but something that we're really happy and we think will be helpful to have in this region. We sort of have a patchwork of technical assistance providers for small businesses, but we hope that this builds kind of a more cohesive system.
A question, is it like IT technical assistance, or is it like technical assistance for, constructing a building and things like that?
Well, this would be, as much as we can, we want this to be business driven. If you have a business that says, listen, COVID-19 has really impacted us in a number of ways, and we need some IT help in order to, be a more resilient in this economy, then that hopefully is something that we can fund. I always get, I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver here, but that's right up the alley of what we're trying to do.
Oh, okay. So you're going to have technical people on staff that help small businesses? That's what you're going to do?
So we would contract with an organization that does this sort of work already, and helps pair up businesses with those sorts of providers. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it'd be wonderful to talk with you offline about that. We might be able to be a resource for you in the community.
Absolutely. That would, I'm like a sponge right now. I'm just trying to gather up as much information as possible as we build out this new resource. So I'd be happy to talk.
Okay, terrific.
Great.
Awesome resource.
So if I may actually just sort of wrap up a little bit, Phil, and just sort of bring it back to the way we think about economic development and some of the other ways in which we're addressing it. If I could take a moment.
Sure.
Great. So I'd already talked about how from an economic development standpoint, sort of the grease that makes the engine run. But we also think about economic development in the sense that there's a direct services that could be brought to bear to businesses. But in order to truly be successful in economic development, you have to have a lot of other buckets that are also working well. And that includes everything from infrastructure, whether it's the roadway, telecommunications, water services, because there are businesses for whom those are key considerations. There are cases where we're having natural amenities, because now when you're trying to attract businesses, you want to have all those quality of life factors to basically really be able to successfully attract businesses. So whether it's the quality of the Merrimack River, all those other things. And so we're working to that extent. So our transportation folks are working to make those improvements in your infrastructure in the city. And we do that by receiving and funneling approximately $10 to $11 million a year in transportation funding. There is a whole process that one has to go through in order to be successful in obtaining those funds. But we have a number of projects in Amesbury, which was considered TIP projects, Transportation Improvement Program projects. So those are things that are in the works. Our environmental program manager is working on the Merrimack River District Commission and its establishment. And what that would allow us to do is work with all the communities and the interested stakeholders along the Merrimack River in both Massachusetts and New Hampshire to improve the quality of the water so that it serves as a beneficial amenity to all of the communities, whether you're a kayak rental business, whether you have a home and you recreate by sailing on the river, and other functions as well. Our GIS person is specifically working with the city of Amesbury, and along with actually a tri-community effort, working on hydrant project work, for example, whereby they are mapping out all the hydrants in the area. So from a water service standpoint, the fire department's ability to quickly respond, know the conditions of the hydrant. Those are all important factors in making sure that public safety standpoint, the quality of life, and all those considerations are taken into account. And while the municipal government plays a key role in delivering those services, we basically could come in and help them with some of the specialty areas that we focus on. So I just want to say that while we understand the need for, especially in times of COVID-19, for that direct injection of resources to small business community, at the same time, we have to be mindful as the planning entity, sort of thinking on a longer term basis and making the engine run of all the other things that needs to continue to happen in order for communities to succeed in the long run. So that's my final pitch on the work that we do here.
Well, thank you.
Great.
Any questions from members of the committee, either as follow-up to some of the things that Nate spoke about earlier, or just general questions? I mean, again, the MVPC has been a long-term partner with this chamber and chambers in the area. And so, and they've had quite the library of programs that have really helped support the business community. So jump in.
About those loans, Nate, how long of a term do you normally lend for, or is it until permanent financing is available, or what are the terms normally?
So I haven't done, personally, I haven't done a loan yet, so I'm not sure on what the parameters for the length of the loan are, but that's definitely information I can find for you if there is a hard rule that we have to follow. The money is seeded by the Economic Development Agency, which is an arm of the U.S. Department of Commerce. So there are federal guidelines that we have to follow. They usually set the rules, but happy to walk through what those options are.
Great.
My one final question is, I've always, prior to even being at the Amesbury Chamber, I've always encouraged businesses that were looking at growing or expanding in the Valley to go check out Merrimack Valley Means Business, which was a program the MVPC had several years ago that incorporated a lot of what you talked about earlier today, except the graphics and data are laid out so much better. I'm excited that this program, Nate, that you've put together is going to roll out in a week. Is the Merrimack Valley Means Business still something to direct businesses to, or has that program changed or evolved?
So yes and no. The name has changed, but the tool itself still exists. And I'm glad you brought it up because I didn't even get to talking about it, but it is under the rebranded effort, and it was rebranded under the leadership of Angie. So giving credit where credit's due, it's a terrific tool. It's wearemv.com. And I'm also putting that link in the chat. It's another way to get to the property search tool. You can see that bar right there. Additionally, it has a business toolkit, which is sort of like a clearinghouse of all the different incentive programs that exist on the local level, at the state level, which is great because there are a lot of tools out there, but oftentimes they can get lost if you don't know about them. And we also have success stories that highlight different businesses in the Merrimack Valley that are small businesses that are succeeding. And we have some community information there. So that is sort of our economic development and marketing tool, the same way that Merrimack Valley Means Business was. And we point people there all the time. It's wonderful. So I encourage folks to check it out.
I have one last question. Teresa, you mentioned about infrastructure and drainage and help in planning those things. I just was interested if I have a wetlands issue and a storm drain that bisects the property, and I'm just thinking, how do I go forward with that? And is that something that I could call you MVPC and see if there's planning guidance, because of course a storm drain is the city's responsibility, and I don't know how everything coordinates with that.
Right. So I think our environmental program managers can certainly help you think through what your options are, in the sense that she has served as a conservation commission agent at the local level. So she understands all the local regulations that one must adhere to. Depending on what the specifics of your issues are, she could talk. But there's also everything like low impact development and other ways of approaching some of these problems. So I think what I would suggest, is certainly not my area of expertise, I confess, is talk to our environmental program manager, and she could probably help sort of think through what the problem is and what may be some of the solutions that you could look at.
Great.
And depending on whether they're in the private, if they're in the public realm versus on your private property, there would be different ways of solving that problem.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, you are a wonderful resource.
So if there aren't other questions for Teresa and Nate, and I think I should probably emphasize that both are accessible and available to all of you as committee members, but anybody watching this video, full-time. Their office is actually, if you want to give the address, you're located in Haverhill, but I'm not good enough to know the address off the top of my head, Teresa.
We are at 160 Main Street in Haverhill, right across from Haverhill City Hall. But we would just request that you call us to make an appointment because we're trying to adhere to our COVID-19 guidance.
So centrally located, accessible resources available to our business and property owners in the region. If there aren't any final questions, I want to say thank you, Teresa, to you and Nate, for both coming and making yourselves available this morning, and to be part of this format that helps get this information out to our business owners. I'm sure by the time this video is live and available for folks, you'll have already cut the ribbon on this new website, and they'll be able to jump right in and check out this data.
And thank you for inviting us. We really appreciate the opportunity to sort of get the word out about the work that we do at the Planning Commission. So.
Thank you. And to Energy Source, Newburyport Bank, and North Shore Realty Group, thank you for helping to make this program possible, and tune into our next episode. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.